right. Well, guys, we're going to, because we have so much to cover today, we're going to get started. And so anybody who jumps on late can reference the recording. We're going to make sure to get that recording uploaded onto our YouTube channel early tomorrow morning. Because there's going to be a lot of information covered here this week and next week regarding home builders. So the whole strategy behind these two calls is to really put together a Rolodex in our minds or in our systems here of the people who are constructing the homes around the city. And as I was just sharing, the people that are going to be on the call, we're going to have a representative from MI later. And we'll be able to have some Q&A with him. We're going to spend about a half hour with this representative. And before that, we're each going to, we've earmarked a few agents to share what they were able to find information-wise from 5 other builders. So today we're going to cover Silvestri, Diani, Westport, Romanelli and Hughes, and Ryan Homes. And so this should be some really good information for us. And so we're going to give about 3 minutes to each person who's going to present. And then we'll hand it over at about a halfway point to an actual builder who will be able to bounce questions off of directly. Before we jump into the meat of the conversation, I did want to let those folks who have opted into leads know that we will have leads starting to come to you today, if not already, from a different lead source. And these should be more fruitful leads. And so I want to encourage y'all to be on the lookouts with your emails. And as soon as you get that lead, make sure that you are reaching out and contacting them. The order of operations should be a phone call first, followed by an email and text. So we've kind of talked about how to talk with leads. Now let's convert some leads. Additionally, next week, I do want to invite everyone back. Next week from 1 to 2, we're going to do phase 2, part 2 of our home builder training session. So looking forward to that. We do have a couple guests. We've invited some folks who are either getting their real estate licenses or who are affiliated with a different brokerage. Really felt that this was a great opportunity to spread the love, spread the wealth a little bit. So if we see some names on the call that we don't necessarily know, just welcome them. So thanks for jumping in. So we are going to start today by having Melody talk about Silvestri Homes. And just to plant the seed, we all ask the same questions of each home builder. The questions that we asked were, number 1, how long have they been around? So are they brand new to the game, or have they been around for 100 years? What areas are you building? And the mindset there, the focus there would be to basically build a map of the city and be able to plot out where certain builders are building. So that if you were to ever have a buyer in, let's say, Plain City, well, I know there's 3 builders that build out in Plain City. Let me reach to them. This is really going to help you become the local market expert. The third question we're asking is, what price range from low to high are these builders building in? And they're likely going to be all over the place. And the fourth question, do you compensate realtors? That's pretty important for us to know, right? We would obviously like to be rewarded for the efforts that we're making in bridging these gaps and introducing people. Then the last question, formal question we asked everybody was, is there any specialty or style with which you focus on? And then we kind of open it up. So any additional information. So each person who's presenting will have 3, maybe 4 minutes to chit chat about what they discovered. So let's start. Melody, teach us about Silvestri Homes.
Okay. Well, they've been building for about 60 years. It's a family business. So their father was an immigrant from Italy and started here. And so Joe and Carlo are currently the owners, which are the sons of the original gentleman that started it. They work in that Columbus surrounding area. So they're in central Ohio, basically. They have offices in Westerville and Galena. They also have built, as far as Delaware County and Lewis Center. Now, I will tell you just real quickly, I had a little bit of difficulty getting information from them because they're actually on a hold right now because of the cost of lumber and building supplies. So they do a lot of custom builds, and they've sold their model. The sales guy's phone is disconnected. I finally did get a hold of Joe, but only through texting. So I didn't get to talk to him for very long at all, but we texted back and forth a couple of times. So they're on hold. And he said they'll be back up and running soon, but they're just the cost of lumber, which I guess has gone up by about 170% in the last 10 months, has been a bigger hit on a small family builder than it probably is on larger builders. So their price range, it averages, I think their price range is probably a little bit high, but that might be because they do customs. They also will do some small developments, and their style of homes, they have everything from 5-level splits to ranches. They're big on 3-car garages and alley low garages. I saw a lot of that. They have a lot of sites, or not sites, but plans on their website, which is great. And I saw everything from 1,500 to 5,000 square foot in terms of those. They also will, they'll build on your lot, or they will help you find a lot, which might, Roy, when they get back up and running, that might, be good for you as well. So been in business for a long time, anticipate they'll be back up and running, but not just yet. I'll actually keep an eye on that and let people know when they are back in full force. Did not get an answer for him in terms of realtor compensation. But that may have just been because we were texting back and forth. I asked a couple times and he didn't answer that question. I hope that's not a bad sign, but he was open to at least text with me and reassured me that they would be back up and running as soon as lumber prices started to even out a little bit.
So he answered all the questions that you posed, except for, do you compensate realtors, it sounds like.
Correct. Yeah, but the texts were pretty sporadic. So I don't know if that was the reason why, but they're not building right now, and actually don't even have a model built right now. So I would imagine their first builds are going to be custom when they get back in the business full time.
Yeah. So to your point, and Rory, you asked the question before we got started, like, do we have any maybe smaller builders that would build on custom lots? And it sounds like the answer to that is, after one discussion, yes.
They'll even help you find a lot too. So if they don't have a lot, they'll help buyers find one.
As we get through, you're going to start to maybe feel more comfortable hearing about one builder than the next. And that's what this is meant to do. It's meant to put a spotlight on the game and be completely transparent and honest. So I'm glad, Melody, that you shared that it was hard to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
We've had experience. I know Katie's been trying to get in touch with a builder for a while now, and it's just a challenge. We want our vendors to be communicative, I would assume. I know I certainly do. And we want them to be easy to track down. So if we're having trouble from the onset, then that's probably not the greatest sign that they're going to provide the best customer service to you or your client. However, we don't want to completely write that person or builder off. So
Yeah.
It sounded to me in recap that they're mainly kind of building on the northern side of 270.
Yeah, Galena, Westerville, Lewis Center, and Delaware County. But
Right.
again, I had to do a lot of my own research on this. So because I couldn't just sit down and have a conversation or a phone conversation with Joe or Carlo, they may be building in more areas than I was able to identify.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your attention to detail and doing your homework. Good job. And hopefully you got a good connection with the Joe you mentioned. Again, that is Silvestri Homes. And if you're interested in more or interested in contact information, Melody, if you can, I know you're on the road, are you able to maybe in the chat put the name of the builder and the contact that you had, so that maybe we can all have that same contact in case we have a need in the future?
Yeah, I'll try to do that. If I can't do it before I have to leave the car, then I will, I'll definitely get it out to you guys via text this evening.
Beautiful. And for those of you who are visiting from other brokerages or from Hondros or whatever, we will put together a probably a PowerPoint of some sort that will encompass all the stuff that we're learning here. Thank you, Melody. We're going to
You're
move on
welcome.
to Courtney. Courtney, would you start with Deani Homes? You are muted if you're talking.
Unmuting would help. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. They were established in 1979, a father and 3 sons, and they continue to be family owned. They pride themselves in the options that they give their buyers. Pretty much every fixture and material they use, their base level has about 20 different options, which I thought was great. All of their houses come with standard 3-car garage and finished basement. They build in the Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Louisville area. In Columbus, their model home is in Sunbury. They build on lots that you find, but they help you make improvements to the lots and get all the permits that you need. Their build time is from starting the process to finishing build is about 12 to 14 months. And they do an agent commission. It's 3%, and that is paid off before building starts once the paperwork is signed. So you do get that pretty quickly. You don't have to wait until the house is fully built. Their price ranges from $241,000 to $497,000. So it's a little bit of a higher price range, especially after you've already bought the lot. And square feet is from 1,700 to 4,200. I was able to contact Juliet, and she was super responsive and very helpful. They have 111 different floor plans, and their website is a little bit, I mean, there's a lot of information on the website, but it's kind of spread out throughout the whole website. So I do have just a little document that breaks down all of the different floor plans, costs, bedrooms, bathrooms, that I'd be happy to share with everybody.
So that is interesting that they pay you up front, basically.
Yeah, once the plans are set, they pay you before the home starts to be built.
And I wonder what happens if your buyer were to bail for some reason. I guess you've already spent the money, right? Spend your money
Yeah.
quick when you get it from them.
They pay you at the first construction draw is what it is. So the house is underway, so they couldn't possibly, well, they could bail if they wanted to be sued, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, once they wait for finances to go through, but they pay you after that happens.
Okay. So it sounds like they don't necessarily build in like total communities. They specialize in, you said, lots that you procure.
Yeah, you find the lot, and they have, they'll definitely help you find land, but they don't have specific communities that they build on.
Josh, I have maybe a kind of a silly question. So what does closing look like on a new build?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we will probably,
Or it's even done?
yeah, you close when you're ready to move in with at least the builders I've worked with. And we will probably explore that conversation more with the actual builder as he gets on at 1:30. But yeah, the home should be done when you're closing, because there should be final walkthroughs, orientations for the buyers, and basically like a getting to know you for the new homeowners with the home, like how to work certain things, making sure that the punch list has been checked off, making sure that the home is as you purchased it. So we'll come back to that one, Dana, for sure. All right. Thank you so much, Courtney. And you said you had some information that you were gonna share with everyone.
Yeah, I have a document that I can send out that takes you straight to the links and everything and all the different floor plans kind of mapped out for you.
So good. So good. So Rory, now you've got two options for people that will build on custom lots.
Thank you.
And I know, Sparkle, for instance, you've been talking in office hours about trying to get a lot for a buyer. And although you weren't going to build a home on it, this is what a lot of people are trying to do these days: is find a vacant lot, buy it, and then build their own, maybe forever home on it. So through this practice, I think we're going to find some good builders that can help us facilitate that. Well, thank you, Courtney. And that's Deani Homes. I assume I'm pronouncing it right. The next one I know I'll be pronouncing right, and that is Westport Homes. And we're going to turn to Sparkle. Sparkle, would you mind covering Westport?
Okay, so Westport, they actually have been brought out by D.R. Horton. So Westport is no longer, and now the new builds are being built by D.R. Horton. And D.R. Horton was started by Donald R. Horton. He started building over 50 years ago, and he started in Fort Worth, Texas. D.R. Horton builds in over 15 communities in our Central Ohio area. There's Canal Winchester, Obetz, Westerville, Pinkerton, Pataskala, Commercial Point, Galena, Delaware, Strander, Granville, Marysville, Grove City, Lancaster. Their lowest home is in the low 240s, and the highest is in the 414,000s. They do compensate realtors, and it is 3% of the final sale price. And D.R. Horton has 4 different styles, but their specialty homes are patio style, which is like a slab home. And so when you get a new build by D.R. Horton, you do have to pay HOA fees, and those fees go towards lawn maintenance. And some communities have a pool. And D.R. Horton also has a credit repair company, and it helps people bring their credit up so that they can purchase a D.R. Horton home.
Beautiful. Good research.
Hey, John.
Yeah, real quick. If you can all see the screen here, you'll also see a map of every community that she mentioned there. Yes.
So West Point is D.R. Horton, which is actually the company that I was supposed to present next week. Additionally to everything that she just said, they really specialize in smart homes. They've integrated like anything that you can imagine being integrated into your smart home, like your thermostats and your locks and your home security and lighting. All of that is really what they're doing. That's their emphasis.
Great information. And thanks for sharing that. So one of the things that was mentioned was slab homes. Does everybody on the call know what a slab means in regards to a foundation? So I'm just going to explain. So some of us may have not even shown homes yet. Maybe we're that new. So there's different foundations. We're kind of used to here in Central Ohio, homes that are built on foundations that allow a basement to be constructed, and a basement can be storage. It can be finished. It can be walkout, and you can even put bedrooms down there if you've got egress windows. Or you can have crawl spaces, which are like, there's a foundation there, a 3D foundation that's lifting the structure up off of the ground essentially, but maybe not livable. Additionally, you've got slab, which basically means there's no basement. You're built directly on literally a concrete slab. And so there are pros and cons of that. Obviously, you're not going to have major typically major foundational opportunities over time. However, there is a lack of storage. So just something to think about there. Great information, Sparkle, and thank you, Dana, as well for that information. So that's DR Horton, and they, correct me if I'm wrong, but they build all over the country, right?
Yes,
they're
when I was on their website, and also did speak with Mindy, and she didn't really say that, but when I got on the website, I saw there were several other states that they build in.
Awesome. Cool. So if you got a referral who's moving to Texas or whatever, and they're looking for a new build, maybe you can get the hookup a couple different ways. Sparkle and Courtney, when you guys get a chance, would you mind sharing your contact information for the people that you spoke with in our chat box so that we can all write it down? Thank you so much. Moving on to Dawn. Dawn is presenting on Romanelli Hughes.
Hey guys. So Romanelli and Hughes, they were amazing. They were easy to talk to. They directed me to a few people. They actually even invited me in to listen to a speaker that they had coming in that was talking about how a high percentage of people are having buyer's remorse right now because they're taking their second and third pick of homes because there's just nothing out there to buy. So from a custom home builder standpoint, it was really interesting to listen to. My contact was Vic Romanelli. Vic, his name's Vincent Romanelli, and David Hughes formed the company in 1970. It's been in business for 51 years. They do a ton of work around Central Ohio. They're all Central Ohio located. So Big Walnut, they base a lot on their school systems. Big Walnut, Columbus, Dublin, Olentangy, Westerville, Worthington. And they have a new really cool subdivision that I checked out in Powell. It's called Maintenance Free Living, and they were ranked by Money Magazine as one of the top places to live in the United States. So it's a really kind of neat subdivision where you don't have to do maintenance and mowing and all that fun stuff. They are awesome in that if you have a piece of land and you purchase it within 30 or 40 miles of where they actually build in those areas I just mentioned, they will come out and build with you. They're known for their design team. So they have a separate complete design team that they have formed and created that is just amazing. It's really cool. They use a lot of high-end materials. Again, it's custom. So their ranges are 400,000 low to 900 high, but they have homes listed in the millions. They just don't like to use that word. They said millions seems to scare people off. So you'll see houses priced at like $1.2 million on their websites, but a lot of their advertising talks from high is 900,000, kind of that starting point. They do commission for realtors at the 3%, and they also do half of that commission at commencement of construction. And then they do half at closing. So you're not waiting for that 8 to 14 month period of building. You can find land on your own and they'll build on it, but they also have developments obviously throughout the areas that were mentioned earlier, like Olentangy has Mirasol. And the really cool thing about it is if you have a home that you've designed and you're in one of their communities like Mirasol, they will not put a home in that area that looks like or is identical to another home. So they all look different in some of their top end communities outside of like Powell. A lot of those are the same. They are known, they do a lot. He said a lot of requests for ranches right now. They do, I think they called it patio, Josh, not slab, but they do patio homes on top of, which would be no basement, on top of ranches, basements, 2-story, 5-level splits, like anything that he basically said anything you can dream of, they can do and add. And they just had some really cool details that they, a lot of fun stuff, like they're known for their parade of homes. They did a lot of work with the BIA builders. They were on the magazine cover and in it for all of their stellar designs. And they are also big on Energy Star standards. So they include like high efficiency furnaces, air conditioners, quick recovery water heaters. So any high star appliance that's energy efficient. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you did a great job. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I will say, guys, I think you probably get the hint in looking at the price points. This is not your starter home. These homes are built for forever, and they are highly regarded around Columbus as being some of the best built homes that there are. And when I say best built, she mentioned it, they're going to use the highest quality materials. And so you get your true forever home here and you pay for it. However, resell, I will say this, resell on a Romanelli and Hughes home, it's going to keep its value really well.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Please.
Don, so when they do developments, do they have just a standard, 3 or 4 models for the development, or are the developments all custom homes as well?
That's a great question. Everything was custom, but they did have a couple of locations, and they really pushed every time we kind of went into that direction. And I actually wanted to drive around because they have a Dublin location that has the same, like what they're doing is they're putting up certain models, but then again, they're selling off the lot. So everything really is custom, but they'll build like the same. He might have 4 floor plans. I believe he said that he'll build like a model in those developments and then kind of go from there just to get an example of what they can do. So no, like going into like Fisher, I went into Fisher one day and was just looking like where they'll have the same 5 floor plans. They don't, they do more custom, but they've really branched into that no maintenance living. And that is where you would see similar floor plans. So that's
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, so they would have a model. They may have a few plans for you to look at, but they're not doing cookie cutter homes in a development, for sure.
Absolutely not. Most of his, and if I mentioned it, like Marisol, for example, this is in all, except for Pal and where a lot of those new maintenance are. He said, like, I fell in love with a home, for example, in Marisol. And I said, how, if I wanted that home, how much, and could you duplicate it? And he said, absolutely not. Like, we would have to take the things that we loved about that home and design our own. So that's what's really neat about them is their design center is insane. So if I brought them a floor plan or a model or something that I found online custom, they can sit down, look at it, and then add your special touches to it. But no cookie cutter. Like, going into like Fisher, it's the same 4 floor plans you pick, and it's the same tile, or you might get packages. Like, they have nothing like that.
Good question and great wealth of knowledge there. It's almost like you're building with them, Dawn.
They were amazing, John. They really are. They were so helpful. I couldn't even believe it. It was like they were actually excited that I was contacting them to chat with them, and even inviting me in to kind of get some additional information. I thought that was so neat that they did that. Is my camera off? I hate that you're probably looking at a blank dot. So they were so helpful. And yes, we've talked to them about a few things, but they're stunning. They absolutely are. The craftsmanship, the design, they're stunning. But as you said, they are not cheap.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I got to cut you off because we got one more presenter, and that is Mr. Brian presenting Mr. Ryan Homes. Muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. White trashing it today. I did Ryan Homes. They are in 14 states, including Central Ohio. In Central Ohio, they seem to mainly do most of the suburbs, not really much like within Columbus limits, but a little bit, probably still along 270. I didn't find them overly easy to get in touch with a real person. To get my questions answered, they kind of keep directing me to other people. And I honestly found it easier to text with someone. That being said, their price range was like mid twos to mid fours. There's 208 different styles of homes they had, and it's broken down on their site which styles you can get in which states, because obviously the topography and the climate affects which ones they can build in, say Florida or Texas, or, where they don't put basements. I couldn't get a straight answer on how much they compensate realtors, only that they do compensate realtors. But after asking 3 times, I gave up asking for a specific percentage.
Good information. Now, I've heard from other agents that they don't. So that they don't compensate. However, if you're being told otherwise, then maybe that's something you can explore.
Yeah,
Hey,
I mean,
Ryan. Oh,
they just
sorry,
raise
it's
the-
Melody. When I've met with Ryan Holmes just recently,
Mhm.
they pay a flat fee. It's like literally, it's either 4 or 450, and that's it. No percentage.
Gotcha. That probably explains why they didn't really want to answer, because they didn't want me to be driven away immediately.
Right.
So yeah, I personally would probably not want to deal with them, only because I didn't find them very easy to get a hold of or communicate with. And if it's that way, just doing basic research, how are they going to be when you actually bring them a client?
Yeah, that's a good point. So thanks for bringing that up, and thank you for getting us some information. As you can see on the screen, there's a map of where they're located throughout the city. So there's some options here. So we do have our special guest, very special guest, Mr. Eric Jenkins from MI. MI, good builder. Let's learn more about him. So Eric, you're up. I'm going to ask you a few questions if that's okay with you.
Sure, ask away.
Awesome. So how long has MI been around?
So MI has been around since 1976. So they've been around for a good while. Mel and Irving Schottenstein started the company here, so they're Columbus based. We're nationwide now though, but it is nice having our home base and our headquarters here. So they put a lot of pride into Columbus and the city.
Yeah, and you guys have a brand new like home office, right? Is that over by Easton?
Yes, we just built a new home office. It's attached to kind of where the Restoration Hardware rooftop restaurant is, and kind of next to Whole Foods there. It's a large black building. You can see MI at the top of it. You can see it from 270 there, but we just moved in about a month before the pandemic hit. So didn't get to see it much last year, but it's open and working now.
Cool. What areas do you guys build in?
So we build most of the city. We generally focus in the kind of prize school districts generally. So we have a lot in Olentangy, Dublin. We'll get into Hilliard, Gahanna, just sold out of New Albany. But we're starting to open up some stuff now that the market's been stable for a while. On the south side of the city, getting back into Grove City again. We got a large piece there. Pickerington, Canal, a good amount. And we have some downtown living as well, but that stuff sold so quickly. We're about wrapped up there.
Okay. And what would you say kind of a broad price range would be starting and kind of ending?
Well, the prices are moving quickly here, but I would say across the city, you can get into Olentangy schools and some other prize schools in the 300s. And we have houses that go up to probably capping about 850 to even 900. We kind of walk the line. I guess the best way that I like to describe MI is, we're a production builder, but we kind of walk the line between custom too, just because some of our price points, we allow some custom options on some of our series. We'll allow, sit downs and kind of redraw some of the prints to solve problems for certain buyers and so on. So pretty broad.
Yeah. Do you compensate realtors?
We do. We do 3%. We paid out $5.4 million last year to our realtor partners. So we value them a lot, and we try our hardest to make sure that they're protected. And the one thing I'll always tell anyone I'm working with is if you have a buyer and you're showing them houses, even if you don't think that they're walking around or stopping in stores, definitely reach out to your builder contact. Let them know who you're working with, their name and so on, because they can card them and tag you to them. So no matter where they go in the city, you're protected. So I always recommend that.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that we all need to take from this call is that in order to, some builders don't compensate, but a lot of them do. And I'd say probably the majority do, but they won't if they think they're the procuring cause for
Correct.
the deal.
Correct. You'll always have to watch it. We try really hard, but we still have a fine line. Once we're in contract with a buyer, if we're just learning of a realtor at that stage, it's very hard to get you added on. But we know people are out and about. We know people stop in, might not say something, we're very, very good about it. But we always recommend if you have someone that you think might be shopping around, just call a couple of your reps, let them know, and they'll put them in the system for you. So you don't have to worry about it. Because there are builders out there that do offer incentives to not be represented. So you always got to watch that for sure.
Yeah. So case in point, guys, I was helping some buyers. They were from out of state. This was late last year, and showed them probably 10 homes. And they off the cuff, they mentioned potentially building, and they mentioned a builder. It wasn't MI. And I was not smart enough to call that builder and register my name with that client. And they ended up basically ghosting me and building like a $500,000 house. So I could have been rewarded for the efforts that I was given, but they decided to go a different route. So protect yourselves, agents out there, please.
Yeah.
Eric, what do you guys have if you would say you had a style, was there a specialty or a style that you guys kind of approach the business with?
I think what's neat about MI is each division that we have specific architects for that division to really suit the architectural style of that city, whatever the current trend is. So our architects in Raleigh to Tampa to Austin to Columbus all have totally different looks to our homes. I do feel like we kind of balance that production world and the custom world. One thing I always tell all of my clients and all of my realtor friends is that, we're definitely not the cheapest production builder out there. They put a lot of pride in the name and this being our home base. So they're really cautious. They use really good products. But if you ever want to sit down and compare why this cost what and so on, once you break it down, it usually makes total sense. But I think we stand behind the construction side the most. So some people might not get excited about a really fancy furnace, but we value the furnace more than we would value a specialty rare tile or something like that.
Nice. So we're gonna get into a little bit more of like a Q&A session here where we'll hear from the agents. I did want to briefly discuss the process of what it looks like from start to finish, like selecting a home, what does it look like to reserve a lot, etc. But one thing before that, I want to be very clear. The reason that we're doing this as a coaching group, guys, to the agents that are on the call, is because inventory right now is at like an all-time low in regards to existing homes. So new builds are a viable option. Okay. And even new builds, and Eric will tell you here shortly, we ran into this with a client, the past couple of weeks. They're going just as quick as the pre-existing homes. So that's the reason behind learning more about this. So you can be better equipped and your tool belt can be completely full of all these tools to help your clients out. Additionally, I did want to mention the cost of construction is increasing significantly. And Eric, maybe you can talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll get into the process. What can you tell us about the cost of construction?
For sure. So most builders will try to, stay as close to existing as we can, but from COVID-19 and the backups and a lot of the supply chains and so on, products are just going up very quickly. Lumber costs have skyrocketed. piece by piece by piece. And then obviously the housing market has just taken off. With this little on the market, you guys know how hard it is to find something in the bidding wars. I've seen houses going in 20K past appraised value. It is a very unique market for sure right now. But on the new build side, pricing is going up for all builders. Nothing changes whether you're custom, giant, small, medium. But it is something that will probably level off over the next year or two. The supply chains are slower, so it does help being with a little bit larger builder and have a little more push on timelines versus some of the small guys are definitely feeling it harder. But yeah, you'll probably see increases in pricing for another 12 months until those supply chains start to stabilize from the shutdowns all of last year.
Cool. Well, I invited Eric on because I know a couple other builders, but I've been able to work with Eric a few times, and I've always appreciated his candor and his experience, and the way he approaches a new client. He'll go as far as Facebook stalking them before the appointment. But at the end of the day, he's trying to provide the best service, and the way that he communicates, I can appreciate. So, and he's apparently got a killer beard. Did that thing grow more in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's the first time. I don't know. I'm my wife's daily throwing the clippers at me, trying to get rid of it. So won't be here much longer.
Good deal. So let's take us through. So let's say I've got a buyer and they see an MI home and they're interested in it. So I reach out to you and set an appointment. Where do we go from there?
So real quick, just so I don't forget this one point, because it is something that'll help all of you guys out right now in this market, especially with there being virtually nothing on the existing market. What were we at? We're at like 1,300 or so, roughly. A lot of builders, or about half of the builders in town, will have inventory homes. We carry a lot of them. Some builders don't do them because it's a lot of overhead, but we generally try to have 4 to 5 per neighborhood. And these are homes that aren't generally listed on MLS yet. So you could have a house that could be perfect for your buyer, no bidding war. It just might be, 60 to 90 days from being finished. But the only way that you'll find them generally is to call your rep. So if you have someone that's struggling and you're not finding something, I always recommend that. We used to have them all on MLS, but the market's so busy now, we don't get them far enough along to even get them on the MLS. So, but on the whole process, it's a pretty simple process. I have a lot of realtor friends, and they will shoot me a text at night saying, "Hey, I have a client. We've been looking for a while. They're getting frustrated, or they lost out on a bid or so on. They are kind of interested in this neighborhood." Generally, we'll meet up, we'll review floor plans and review lots. But it really is a very simple process. You just pick out a lot, pick out the floor plan, and then we run a lot of numbers to kind of figure out a good idea of where they will be on pricing. So we'll do a full price out, types of hardwood, tile, everything. And we usually try to get them within about a $7,000 bubble that'll float the whole time through some of the small stuff like faucets and any kind of specialty little things that they might do to the home. But once they have those plans picked out and the lot picked out, they can lock in with 3% down. And then we shoot off a DocuSign to the client and to you guys, and that starts the whole process.
Yeah, so a lot of times people, like especially buyers, this will be the first time they've ever built, because most of the time I think when you build, you're building like a big home that you're going to spend a lot of time in.
For sure.
So that question, you said 3% down. I think you got some wiggle room on that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we'll always work with buyers case by case. We know a lot of people are rolling over equity. I always just tell realtors that building, as soon as you do it once, it really is very simple. It's even very simple for the clients generally. I think they overthink it a little bit on what it is. But we normally will always work with them. So say they only have $5,000 and the rest, they have $100,000 in their house. we'll usually let them enter into contract and maybe try to get a couple more thousand over the next month or two. Especially in a market right now where we have faith that their house will sell. So we're willing to risk a little bit more with how solid the current market is.
Cool. So if I'm going to try and paraphrase the process. So we come in, we
Mhm.
reserve our lot, then we decide which model we want,
Mhm.
and then we enter into a formal agreement, like a contract, kind of through Dotloop or DocuSign, like we've all got experience doing.
Mhm.
And then you allow a little bit of a time for review of those documents before you're completely locked in.
Yeah.
From there, then the information goes to, I'm assuming, architects and designers to actually put the model on the piece of land on paper, essentially.
Yeah. So our first step is about a week of kind of finalizing your structural options. So do you want a morning room? Do you need an additional bathroom? Do you want to do a custom shower, maybe change where the seat is? We'll spend the first week doing that. And then we'll send off the prints, and then the client will have a design center appointment, sometimes two, out at our home office there, which is a super fun time. That's where they pick out all their interiors. They have their own personal designer there. And that's usually a very, very fun, kind of exciting time of the process.
It's a time where they get to beef up their costs, right?
Correct.
They always want to upgrade. So from there, then so what's the time frame between picking the lot and agreeing to that to actual dig, typically?
So normally, if the process is consistent, the buyers stay to the schedule and they're on time and so on, we usually enter into contract, and we'll usually have a hole in the ground within 3 months. It's usually about a month of design center and kind of finalizing all their stuff, 30 days for permits and zoning, and then generally about 2 to 3 weeks for engineering and drafting. So usually about 3 months, you'll have a hole in the ground. And then current build times right now, from the hole till close date, run about 5 to 6 months is pretty average.
Cool.
It's a little slower right now, not by much, maybe by 30 days, just because of the supply chains and so on. And obviously this winter was a little rough last month.
So in my first experience with Eric, it was my first overall new build experience. So I learned a lot. And what I learned is that I got rewarded for not being able to participate in hardly any of the process. So I brought the buyer, obviously, but then COVID hit and I wasn't allowed to attend like hardly anything. So things in a typical year, let's take us past COVID. In a typical year, what does realtor involvement look like through the process?
So we're one of the highest ones. This year, 2020, I believe we were at 72% realtor involvement, which is huge. And it shows the lengths that they go to build the relationships and try to get our realtor friends to contact us first and give us the first shot with that client.
What I more mean is throughout the process. So let's say we get into contract, and then I know
I see.
I was involved in the general contractor meeting, just to introduce him and kind of get contact information and kind of get an idea of what the build process looks like, who to contact if we wanted to stop by. Because anyone who's spending $500K on a house, they want to see it as it's being built. They want to bring the kids and take pictures in front of it and stuff. So I know the general contractor meeting was the first instance where I was able to kind of be present. From there, it feels like there was a long wait, and then there's a couple walkthroughs, right?
Yeah. So each person that I work with vary. The house will ultimately build itself. Some clients are heavily involved and they want to see it every 3 days. Some clients I'll meet once in the beginning, once halfway through, and once when it's all done. Some clients live out of state, so on and so on. But with my realtor friends, generally we have our first meeting where we go into contract, and And then we have a buyer builder conference right before we dig the hole, where we go over all the paperwork and stuff like that. And that's usually a fun meeting because we're about to break ground. We cover everything they picked out. And then we're kind of off site for a while because the house builds itself. It's a construction site, so it's a little dangerous for a while until we get closer to drywall stage. And then we have the pre-drywall walk where the clients and their realtor and me or whoever else wants to go can check all the wiring, make sure we have everything placed properly before we drywall. And then we have a new home orientation meeting at the end where we walk it, generally about a 2 to 3 hour meeting, just to look for any last little bumps or dings and kind of learn about the house, how to take care of it, how to maintain it properly through the seasons and so on. And we cover all the warranties as well then.
Great. So I'm going to open it up to the class for questions. So please jump in,
Sure.
guys. We've got 8 minutes left. Dana, you want to ask your question first?
About closing?
Yes.
So what does closing look like on a new build? I mean, are we closing once the paperwork's signed at the beginning, or do you have to wait until everything's built and the walkthroughs are done?
So in the beginning, when you sign those docs, you're actually the buyer just entering into contract for us to build them a house. They don't own anything yet. It's still our property. So they're only at risk for their deposit in a worst case scenario. The closing happens once the house is fully finished and we've finished our NHO meeting, which is the final walkthrough. And we'll have a closing at our home office. We have our own title company out there as well. And that's when the buyer is actually purchasing their home. So a lot of times in this market, and a lot of our clients are move-up buyers. So they will list their current home about 30 to 60 days before their new home's done. It'll enter into contract in an hour right now. And then they'll generally close on that house in the morning time and then close on ours in the afternoon once they've wired over funds and everything. And that's the day that they get the key and they get to go to their house and actually move in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So the year that it's being built, does the house accrue tax? Do they have to pay taxes on that year that it takes to be built, or is that
No.
It's still your property, so you're still okay?
Yeah. They don't own it till that day when it's completely finished. So if someone built a house all the way until 30 days before close and bought a yacht and couldn't afford it anymore, then the worst case is they would lose their 3% down. And that's a case by case. We'll always try to work with them on that.
In a case like that, do you guys just try to sell it?
Yeah, so we would take that. It doesn't happen very often anymore, but back, 2010, 11, kind of coming out of that market, it did happen a decent amount where someone couldn't sell their current home, took them a year to sell it and they just couldn't get it done. That would come back home. That would come back to us as an inventory home and it would go right on the MLS. I haven't had one of those in probably 2 or 3 years. So they're pretty rare now. And the few that I did have, the people actually came back to rebuy it. One of them lost their job, I think, and then got a new job and came back and actually purchased it from us once it was finished, which was kind of cool.
Cool. Thank you.
For sure. I'm going to send out an email too. So if you guys have any off the wall questions, anything that you think is goofy or weird at all, shoot me an email on it. I'm happy to respond that way too. And then I'll also keep you all up to date with any houses that we have currently on the market too that aren't on MLS.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I've had clients ask me if it's more expensive to build than it is to purchase a house, an existing house. And I don't usually know how to respond to that.
For sure. Most builders keep their cost per square foot pretty consistent with the existing market right now. Generally, it's going to be a tiny bit more, but not to the level of where, the used car versus new car market is and so on. So I usually tell anyone that I'm working with to always go do a price out, explore, or even just look at the price per square foot online. You could always pull up the builder's website and, you know, see this house is 3,000 square feet starting at 400,000. Picture, you'll probably add 50,000 to it. Then you can do some rough numbers there too. But generally, we always try to stay pretty consistent with the existing market.
Okay.
Good question.
Hey, I would say this, Rory, when you tell your clients to look at the purchase price of a existing home, tell them to add about 30K to that right now, right? Because the list price is not what it's going to sell for, versus going the building a new home route where your costs, you're not competing necessarily. So that's just something additionally to think about.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one thing that, you know, buyers have to be used to a timeline, but generally there's a lot of comfort in that, because even if the pricing goes up, they're locked in, nothing can change on their end. So the builder will absorb lumber cost changes and so on and so on.
What other questions, guys? We've got a few minutes left.
Is there, and I don't know if I'm going to, sorry, I forgot that was off.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to ask correctly. But I have a friend who just built a new home in Tennessee, and there was a surprise transfer tax upon writing the contract, or like a week later. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Is Ohio the same? What does that look like?
Never heard of it, so probably not. It's probably something based in that state.
Okay.
Something else that is nice as well with most builders, speaking on MI's behalf, we have our own in-house lending as well. So, which I believe this year we had like a 97% capture rate. So it's really, really good at making sure that the client uses in-house lender and they give them $4,000 to pay their closing costs, and generally match most rates out there. So that's a benefit for a lot of buyers too, not having to pay that additional cash out of pocket. So it's hard too, because I have a lot of friends that are lenders, and most of them know if they have a client and then they go look at new builds that, you know, they're generally going to go that route. But it is very, very easy for the buyer to work with the in-house lender. Houses close the day they're supposed to. I bank with Chase. My wife works for Chase Corporate, but I got horror stories from, you know, houses not closing on time. And I've had people in moving trucks outside of my office that I can't let into a house. So they can use anyone they want for the lender, and they're welcome to, but generally they'll end up getting pulled into MIF, which is our lender. Didn't really answer your question, but it's a good food for thought for sure.
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
A lot of builders do have in-house lenders as well. So it's an easy streamline option. And yet if you've got a buyer who's married to a certain lender, that's still a possibility as well.
And they can shop around during the whole build. So a lot of times people will start with our lender just because it's really easy. And then when the house is in framing, they might go to Third Fed or a friend or an aunt and get their best rate and have them fight it out with our lender. So they have time, which is nice.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Eric. I will say this last thing. If your clients have a price range that can't afford it, if you get them in front of a builder rep, odds are they're going to build. And it's going to make the process a little bit easier for you, because there's less competition, less stress in the offer situation, honestly, less follow-up throughout. As I told you, my first experience building, I felt like I got paid and I didn't do, close your ears, Eric. I didn't do a whole lot of work, right? And because I couldn't, I wasn't allowed to be in the meeting rooms. But the process is simple, and the payoff is good. It's great.
I've got lots of of friends and who are realtors, and what a lot of them say is, at first, totally understand that, you might not be getting paid for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, and so on. But when you get a pipeline going and you have a client that you can pass off to someone that and you trust, then you can focus on a new client that is dead set on existing or so on. It does start to kind of create a very fluid atmosphere where as you get more builds going and more existings going, it doesn't feel like you're sitting there kind of twiddling your fingers waiting for that house to close. So.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. I did send an email out to
Cheers.
everybody who's in our normal coaching group with your contact information, as well as the
Cool.
information for the past 2 vendors that we've had on the calls. So thank you for joining us, man. And yeah, feel free to reply all and send information out that you've got. But please, everybody else, stay tuned and come back next week, 1 to 2. We're going to finish this conversation. We're going to hear from 9 or 10 other we're going to hear about 9 or 10 other builders from across the city. So hopefully this was good and educational for y'all. Reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and I will see y'all next week.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.